is Olivia, and I am going to share my story with pProm and being diagnosed and my time spent on bed rest. I was diagnosed with preterm premature rupture of the membranes at 16 weeks. That was May 1st, was when my water broke. Um, it has been a very long journey with uh, just of emotions. Like, it was one of the most terrifying things that I've ever experienced in my life. One of the very saddest and hardest thing that I've ever had to go through. And if I get a little teary-eyed, it's bound to happen. I purposely did not put no fake eyelashes on because I knew I'd probably be crying. So, this is our story. On May 1st, I remember the date because we had just received the keys to our house. We had just bought in a house. This was our third pregnancy, and I was 16 weeks. Yes, I was 16 weeks when we received our keys. So while I was at work, I am a I do billing for a clinic in NICU. And so while I was on an insurance call, it was like a 45-minute call, and I had to go to the bathroom, and I was holding it, and once the call ended, I stood up, and a gush of fluids came out. Now, I thought it was pee. The reason why I thought it was pee is because during my second pregnancy with my son, I leaked pee a lot. So I was like, your bladder's not what it used to be, ladies, so it's probably pee. I was wearing a pad, so it caught most of the fluid. I went to the bathroom. A little bit of pee came out. I looked at it, it looks like the color of urine. And that probably was urine when I went to the restroom. And then I got up from the bathroom, or from the toilet seat, I gushed out again. And this time it was even more. And I wet the front of my pants. So I went to my boss and I asked her if I could go home for like 30 minutes because I work in a town that I live in. So she said yeah, and she was like, "Are you okay?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm fine. I think it was just pee. No big deal. I mean, I smelt it. It smelled like pee." The truth is amniotic fluids. I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing it. It smells like pee. It has a urine smell to it. So that I thought it was pee. I took a shower and I was leaking. I felt little bursts of leaks here and there throughout the day, and I was just like, man, I really lost control of my bladder. It's not what it used to be. So that day stood out. So exactly a week later, I'm in the shower. I'm trying to get our oldest son, who is 7 at the time, I'm trying to get him ready for school. I'm trying to get ready for work, and I'm trying to straighten out our 2-year-old at the time, and he's outside the bathroom screaming his little head out. And I had just put conditioner into my hair, and I slipped and fell in the shower, and I fell on my back, and I fell hard. And so my father-in-law, because we were living with my in-laws at the time, we were saving up to buy a house, and my father-in-law and my son ran into the bathroom, and luckily I had the curtain covering me because he would have seen everything. But I just told him I was okay. They left me alone. I carefully finished up my shower. I was in complete shock. I was like, I didn't even know what to do. I sat on the bed, called my mom. My mom was like, "Okay, I'm gonna take you to the emergency room, just to be sure." So we went to the emergency room. My husband met me there, and we took tests. They did an ultrasound and a urine sample, And, they said, you're fine. You have low amniotic fluids, though, and you should follow up with your doctor. So they're like, hey, come back if you start cramping. Okay, so the next day, went to work. I sit at the desk all day. So, I'm not really on my feet. I'm not bending over or anything like that. And there should be no reason why I would start cramping again. Because when I got home, I started cramping. And I was, kind of timing them. And they were kind of like 3 minutes, 5 minutes apart. So we went to the emergency room again. It was on a Friday. And they ran another test. They did blood work. They're like, hey, you have placenta previa. I believe I'm pronouncing that correctly. That's when your placenta is covering your cervix. And your amniotic fluids are still low. And what else did they say? Your pregnancy hormones are high. We're not concerned. And follow up with your doctor. So that was, I think that was Thursday night, actually. Yeah, that was on a Thursday night. And then so Friday, we didn't get home until like 11 at night, 12 at night. And so on Friday, I called my employer and I let them know like what happened, and I wasn't going to come in because my doctor was putting me on bed rest. When I spoke to them, they're like, continue bed rest. We're going to set you up with an appointment with the specialist to see why your fluids are low. And my appointment wasn't until Tuesday, so I had to wait. So I had to wait Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, 5 days to go. So I went. My husband went with me, and we had to take our youngest son with us, and he stayed in the car with him. And so I went, and they did an ultrasound, and I swear they were only there for like 2 minutes. I want to say maybe 5 minutes, and then the doctor comes in and says, oh, your water broke, you have a tear in your sac. Just like that, like just no bedside manner, nothing, just like, oh, the sky is blue kind of way. I was in like complete shock. I processed what he said, but honestly, like I was trying not to break down in front of a room full of strangers. And he's like seriously stood there in front of me like this and looked me in the eyes and waited for me to cry. And like once the tears came out, they didn't stop coming out. And so I asked a bunch of questions. Honestly, I don't even remember what questions I asked, but he was like, you need to terminate your pregnancy. He said my child would suffocate when he was born because his lungs would be like hard sponges, and that his muscles would be very stiff. And that was pretty much the only option he gave me. He was just no hope at all. And I just couldn't understand, because they're like, yeah, but his heartbeat is so strong, but you should terminate. And like I couldn't wrap my head around that. How can this child, his heartbeat be so strong, my pregnancy hormones are high, and you're telling me to terminate him? I couldn't understand. He told me, well, come back next week. Maybe there is a possibility that the tear will heal itself, but it's not likely. So I left with an appointment date for a week, and I had to tell my husband the news. And it was so hard. And to try to explain exactly what the doctor said. And I could hear my voice cracking. It's just like reliving that moment is hard. I explained to him everything that happened, the possibilities, or the possibility that we're gonna have to terminate. And I completely shut everybody out of my life. I told my mom the news, and then I just ignored her calls thereafter. He told his parents and just told his parents not to ask me any questions about it. I didn't talk to my best friend. I completely just shut everybody out. I was so sad. I was so depressed. I just stayed in my bed. And I did so much research. You know, what can I do to try to build this fluid up? Like, I know I'm leaking, but what can I do? And, you know, you drink plenty of fluids, and rest, and don't do anything. That's pretty much all your options are, because pProm is not, it's not something that there's a lot of research on. And that's the sad part, is that doctors don't really understand it. They're not doing the research. They're not doing the test. I don't know what they do, but anywho, so I had it was a very hard week just to get to the next week and to see if my sac healed. I had 3 appointments. I had one to find out what the sex is. The next one was follow up with a specialist to see if it healed. And the third was an appointment with my OBGYN. Okay, so my husband, he was working a lot of overtime. He's an iron worker, and he was building the new California Adventure Park Disneyland. And so I really dealt with this by myself. Only because, we had just bought in a house, so like get the overtime as much as you could, and so we went. He took those 3 days off. Thankfully, he took those 3 days off, and we went to find out the sex, and it was another boy. I had 2 boys already. It was honestly like, it would have sucked. I'm not trying to diminish my my third son, but it would have really hurt, like, worse if it was a girl. Like, I think God was just like, no, girl, like, I'm gonna put you through so much, you're getting another boy. It was a path that he chose for us to walk. The whole time I didn't question God's plan at all. But it sucked. It really sucked. So we found out it was another boy. We went to the specialist the next day. Same thing. This time he was like way cold about it. Like, he was just super annoyed. Like, why haven't you terminate? Was kind of like his attitude. And then, I asked, like, well, if I terminate, where am I going to go? Well, it's going to be an outpatient thing. So he was pretty much hinting to a abortion clinic that's pretty popular. I'm not going to say the name of it. And I was just like, I can't do that. Like, my son is 4 months old. Technically, he's 18 weeks old. Like, I'm not going to go there and abort him out. So, we spoke about it on our way home, and I was just like, I can't do it. I can't choose to end his life. His heartbeat is super strong still. My body is not going into labor. I hadn't felt contractions since the day after I felt. Like, I'm not doing it. So the next day, we had a appointment with my OB/GYN, and we told him what was happening, and he asked me like, well, what do you want to do? And Ernesto answered him and was like, we want to continue on with the pregnancy. And he said, okay, we're going to. He told me, I've had a woman in the past who had very low fluids too, and she delivered a healthy baby, so it is possible. And this is the plan. You're at 24 weeks, you're going to get steroid shots, and you're going to get antibiotics, and you're going to continue on with bed rest. Okay, so I was like, great. I was doing the calculations in my head. I had 5 more weeks to get to 24 weeks, and I prayed super hard. My mom told a lot of my family members who are prayer warriors. I had a lot of prayers, and the week before my 24th week, so at 23 weeks, I was on bed rest the whole time. It was chaotic because we were in the middle of doing cosmetic work at the house that we just bought, and I really, really wanted to deal with the rest of my bed rest by myself. I did not want to be at my in-laws anymore. I felt like I was super vulnerable, and I just wanted to be in my own space. So we hurried up with the little cosmetic work. My stepdad helped a lot, and Ernesto packed up everything and moved us in here and made sure that I stayed in bed and I did not get up. So what happened was, on I was entering my 23rd week, I started bleeding, and it was blood tinge fluid. So I went into labor and delivery, and they didn't even they just did a Doppler where they listened to the heart. They didn't even do any blood work or anything, and they sent me home. Come back if you're bleed heavier. And the next day at 3 o'clock in the morning, I was bleeding so heavy, and I was so scared. I had done my research. At 24 weeks, they can intervene, and they can deliver. So I was like, if anything happens, if I'm in labor, then I hope that they intervene. So we did lots of tests. They stuck that nasty wand, I want to say, that long wand up there to measure the uterus and all that stuff. And so I'm trying to remember what happened. Okay, so everything was fine. There was just I think it's because your uterus is being irritated because there's no fluids, and he's kind of kicking around, moving around in there. So a labor doctor came in and was like, do you want me to induce you? I'll induce you right now. And if we won't intervene unless pretty much he doesn't die, then we'll intervene after, if he's still alive after a while. What do you want to do? And I was just so mad. He sent in the NICU doctor and everything, and he gave me this the statistics of survival and everything. And I told the doctor, I was like, I'm only a week away. I want the steroid shots. I want the antibiotics. I want to wait. I want nature to take its course if this is what's going to happen. And I was so close. I was not going to give up. And so the same doctor came in and was like, oh yeah, I don't see no reason why you wouldn't want to let nature take its course. You know what? I understand that you guys are covering your asses, but you guys give us women who are diagnosed with pProm no hope, and it's bullshit. Anywho, he's all, you're going to come in next week. I'm booking you in here. You're going to stay here until the rest of your pregnancy, until you deliver, pretty much. You're going to get antibiotics, you're going to get magnesium sulfate, and you're going to get steroid shots for the baby's lungs. I'm lifting up your bed rest because there's no point in you getting a blood clot. All right, so I left, and I was so happy because I felt there was hope now. I was so relieved. I was like, great, I'm gonna go to this hospital. It's gonna be our safe place. So we took boys, I think the next day we took the boys to go see the new Incredible movie. And it was just too much. I started cramping a little bit. I wasn't feeling good. So I was like, you know what? I'm putting myself back on bed rest because that doctor did not know what he was talking about. And so I did. I continued bed rest for the week. And then I went into the hospital a week later and started the antibiotics and the steroid shots and the magnesium. Oh my God, the magnesium sulfate sucks. It's like the worst, like, hot flash you will ever.
Is Daddy home?
No, he's not.
Wait, you're recording?
Yes. Can you go check on your brother?
Okay. On my channel?
No, on mine. Sorry. I'm recording on my my iPad, so I don't know how to pause it or whatever. But where is I? Okay, so the magnesium sulfate. Oh my gosh. You feel like your insides are burning. It sucks. Like, if you...
Sebastian just passed out.
Okay, thank you. If you are in a situation and you get the magnesium sulfate, like, one, it's good for your child. It helps them with, like, the nervous system and everything, to prevent, like, brain bleeds. So it's good to get. But it will, like, the first dose is very high and it lasts for 20 minutes, and you will feel like you have, like, you came down with the worst flu. Like, it will hit you, like, all of a sudden. And I started having an anxiety attack. I was like, oh my God, get this thing out of me. I was ready to rip the IV out and walk out. And my nurse came and she, like, placed wet cloths all over, like, my forehead and my chest area, and that helped calm me down. It was, like, the ugliest feeling I ever felt in my life. And Eric, if you do not get out of my room, I'm going to go and mess with your video games. Out. It was so bad. And so now that whole magnesium sulfate, like, once you get the first 20 minutes, the rest of the dosage are easier to handle. And it's for 48 hours, and it's good. You need it. So you just need to get through it. You become very dehydrated. Your mouth becomes very dry. And you can't get up. You can't get up to use the restroom, so you're either getting a catheter, or you're getting a bedpan. And I was like, nope, you're not sticking that in me. I'll use the bedpan. But yeah, that sucked. So I was like, honestly, I was looking forward to this. Let me try to move over here to plug in my iPad. I was looking forward to bed rest. Let me tell you why. Because it was our safe place. And there we go. It was our safe place. But like, you know, in the movie Bad Moms, where that mom was like, I just want to be admitted into the hospital and everyone could do everything for me. I was kind of like that. I was just like, I can use some rest. Not having to get up and change my 2-year-old's diaper, get him juice and stuff, like not having to worry about, you know, that stuff, and just concentrating on myself and our unborn son. So I was pretty excited. I was like, oh yeah, I'll just binge a bunch of like reality TV and read books, and that was fine for like the first 2 weeks. And then after that, I started getting anxiety attacks, like really, really bad. And I was convinced that I was not going to get out of this hospital, that I was going to die. You know, they have you sign a waiver saying that you understand the risks of having a C-section. And do you want a blood transfusion? And so all this stuff just like really convinced me that I was not going to make it out of this situation, that I was going to have a C-section and I was going to bleed out. Or that stupid Grey's Anatomy episode where the woman dies after she has baby because of preeclampsia. Like, preeclampsia. I cannot pronounce anything. Sorry, guys. And so, you know, you just get in your head. And I was just this... It was in summer, dead summer. And the air was stale in the room. And, I couldn't, if I went outside, I could get wheeled outside. It was freaking hot. And there was no air. And they stuck me in the room all the way in the back. So I felt like when I woke up, I was in the Walking Dead episode where he, like, finds that the hospital is abandoned. Like, it was really sucky. I miss my kids so much. I was just like, just worked so hard to get this house. And I was like, I'm never going to get to live in it. I was just negative Nancy. There was episodes where I would start bleeding heavy again, and they would put me on the monitor, and they wouldn't let me get up. I couldn't go to the restroom or anything like that. And it just, you're restricted to so many positions because they have to have the monitor on you, and that baby is so small that you could only lay on your back. And I'm just like, how does this make sense? They tell you not to lay on your back when you're pregnant. But it was just really hard. It was very lonely. It was like one of the hardest things I've ever had to do in my life. Like, the anxiety attacks were so bad. The loneliness was so bad. Like, I ached for my children. I ached for my husband. Like, it was the first time in years that I've ever been alone like that. And it was the worst time. But I knew I was doing it for our unborn son. And so I stayed in hospital bed rest for 6 weeks and 5 days. I woke up on a Friday and my body was in labor. I was cramping. I wasn't cramping super bad. Yeah, I was cramping, and they're like, oh, you are having contractions. You're in labor. So they took me down to labor and delivery because I was back up. I was in labor delivery. They put me up to postpartum, and then they took me back down. And I have some stories about like the nurses and stuff that I'll like upload later. I'm just trying to get this in here. I'm sorry I did not do my hair, and my makeup looks pretty bad. Anyways, I hope this isn't an annoying video for you guys. I went into labor. They gave me another dose of magnesium sulfate, and that was like, I refused the first one. I was so anxiety ridden that I was like, I cannot do the first dose. So they just did like the easier one where it's like a slower pace, and that was horrible. Like, you feel so hot. Like, the second time around was really bad. Like, I felt hot and cold. Like, my skin was super dry. I just felt really bad with that. And so they lowered the dosage, and I was having contractions, but they couldn't see it because what the sulfate does, it relaxes your cervix, so it doesn't, you don't go into labor. So they couldn't see. They could not see the contraction. So they gave me like this little device where you just like click it every time you have a contraction. And so once they lowered the dosage, because I was just like, I can't do this anymore. I was just like, I was really on my last like wit's end. Like, I could not handle the situation anymore. And so they lowered it, and then that's when the contractions started showing. They started picking up on the monitor, and then by like 9 o'clock, they were like probably at a 6, I want to say, only because I've had 2 other kids, like I could handle it. But so she checked me. She's like, you're 3 centimeters dilated. Millimeters, stupid girl. You're 3 centimeters dilated. I'm going to go ahead and tell your doctor there's no point in like having you suffer if, your baby, my son was breached. So they're like, if your baby's still breached, we're just going to have a C-section. Doctor comes in, does the ultrasound, baby's still breached. So everybody is just like around me, getting me prepped for surgery. And I felt so scared. Oh my God, I was terrified. I just started crying, and I was like, like, this is too soon. I need more time. I like, oh my God, like I just didn't know what to do. Like I reached my phone. I was going to text everybody for prayers because like I felt like I needed them, but I couldn't. I did not know what to do with myself. I was so scared and so terrified. But I had the C-section, and I will tell you that story some other time because that one is kind of crazy too. But I had a C-section, and my son was born. He was 3 pounds, 5.6 ounces, and I heard the faintest little cry, and the NICU team, rushed to, I believe they sedated him, and they put the tube down his throat, the breathing tube, and he was born. And that story is beautiful. But, so, like, my point is of this, telling you my pProm story, is that after doing some research, there is a 90% survival rate for long-term pProm babies. So women, if you or anybody you know is diagnosed with pProm and your body has not gone into labor, do not give up, because chances are your baby can survive. I do have a blog that I blogged while I was I wrote while I was in the hospital. I'll leave the link down below in the description box, but I'm just trying to bring this information out because I believe that there could have been a lot more babies saved if these doctors did not give the lowest amount of hope to these women that are diagnosed. There is a chance that your son or your daughter can survive this, and you just have to be strong for your baby. I have received a small handful of women around the world who have or had gone through pProm, and their stories, some are sad and some are great. I mean, babies can survive this. If your body's not in labor, do not give up. You can do this and be strong. So I plan on making another video of Sebastian's NICU stay, and then I'll make videos of more in-depth videos of the stories of these nurses. There's one nurse that drove me crazy. I loved her to death. Though she was amazing, but she drove me up the wall. And I'll tell you guys about my C-section story. It's kind of embarrassing, but yes. So women, please do not give up hope. If you need someone to talk to, I'm here. I do have a blog. I will link everything down below. I'm trying to spread awareness. So I'm sorry if this video sucked, but I've been wanting to record this, and I just was like, oh, Sebastian fell asleep. Let me record this really quick. So hopefully the next videos won't be so shaky and